Greetings, everybody. Lady Empath here. And today I just want to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart. Um, but the title is Changing Plans. And so I know you guys saw the picture, which was from an oracle card, actually, of a tarot read. Um, Talking about you having a right to change your plans, and it was really dedicated to being empathic and learning how to just go with the flow and spontaneously and shifting with energies and learning to trust that. And as you do that, you start to find that things come into alignment and synchronicities starts to happen a little more easily and effortlessly almost, and a little more frequently. But what I want to talk about today is not so much to do with that specifically. I just like the card, I like the picture, and I liked his expression, and it's just provoking. Um, his his picture is saying, "I am thinking, I am contemplating, I have a right to change." I have a right to not go with the status quo or with the flow or with the thoughts or with the beliefs or with the attitudes or contracts or agreements. In a healthy sense, I'm not talking about, you know, necessary literally in terms of legal contracts. And so please don't, for those of you who have a tendency to go to one extreme or the other, that's not where I'm going. It's more about a right as an adult human being to change when something doesn't feel right for you, to change your mind, to change, as long as the changing is not in violation, of course, to someone else, or violation to a law, or you understand what I'm saying. And so this is a thought and topic that's been near and dear on my heart for a while concerning culture. Okay, I'm African American woman, and I'm coming to realize that all cultures, so I'm not going to just say African American culture, all cultures have their set of social norms, traditions, and beliefs, right? Typically, and they're not always the healthiest, but they're usually honored and upheld. And however, what I'm starting to realize, because, as a result of this enlightening journey that I've been on, is just because it's a belief or a tradition and something that was, you know, accepted as absolute or followed by everyone, doesn't mean that it's good for you, and doesn't even mean that it's necessarily right. But this is not about finding somewhere to point a finger to tell someone else how they're wrong. That's actually counterproductive, and quite honestly, it's a waste of our time. It's about recognizing what's wrong for us or what's right for us, and having that right and asserting that right to change. Okay, now here's the topic specifically where I want to go with this. And forgive me if anything that I say comes off the wrong way or you take it the wrong way, because my intention, my attitude, my mindset, my spirit um, is definitely not disrespectful or disregarding to anyone's background, ethnicities, cultural beliefs, traditions and things that they want to uphold. So when I refer to something, I'm not referring to it from a stance of derogatory, condescending, supremacy, or anything like that. I'm just sharing my experience and my view and what I feel like I've come to understand, or I'm coming to understand, and my take on it, and I'm just throwing it out there and sharing it with those that I feel like are probably similar to myself. So if it resonates with you, take it and do with it what you feel comfortable and led to. If it doesn't resonate with you, that's okay as well. Disregard it. That's my motto now for everything in life. So that goes for you all too. Okay. So just thought I'd throw that disclaimer out there. But okay, so the African American culture. Okay, I'm not going to get way deep into our history, right? Most of you know the history and slavery, and then on top of that, some of us, depending on our upbringing, background, on top of that, some of us, depending on how old we are, how affected we are by certain things that was kind of inherited by the culture. Okay, so I want to discuss how in the African American culture, and of course there's always an exception to the rule, and I know I keep stopping and adding because I pick up almost energetically like all of the different responses and thoughts of people. It's weird. So I understand that there's exceptions to the rule. I understand there is no cookie cut. I understand you can't put us all in one box. Okay, that goes without saying. I'm referring to my experience and the experience of many that I've spoken to and what I observed outside of myself. Okay, so the African American culture, especially the older our generations are, the younger ones may be coming off a little differently. Not quite sure. I think they still have some of that stuff, but has a tendency to be very aggressive. And it's not always that they mean harm. So I'm not putting an intention in their behavior because I can't do that, right? But they're very aggressive and very bossy, forceful, and lack boundaries, okay? But let me explain why I feel like it's there. Sorry, excuse me. It's kind of what we were taught and kind of what was just driven in, and it comes from the place of fear and scarcity that was sown into us a very long time ago. And so, that the chakras, for those of you who are familiar with our energetic body, right, our etheric body, and this is not hocus pocus for those of you who think that. Do your own research. Don't just swallow things from no one, and that includes the people that you've always swallowed things from. Okay, do the research. Don't discredit things just because it's unfamiliar to you, and which usually brings an element of fear. But anyway, I digress. Let me get back on point. As a result of all of these inherited things that are stored in our tissues, both subconsciously and in our physical brain as well, energetically as well, we take on these mannerisms, attitudes, personality traits, and belief systems almost as second nature as was handed down. And so it's almost like a program, okay? And as a result, it's like this fear, this scarcity, the survival, area, which is connected to the root chakra at the base of the spine and between the pelvic bones. It's 9 chances out of 10 is out of whack. And if it's out of whack, this is what the energy that flows through every last one of us, right, starts to become obscure, abrupt, fragmented. I want to say like recycled to another area and proportionately. Anytime something is out of alignment, just think about something being backed up or what have you, if you want to look at it like that. What will happen in a system if there's one clog here? Well, everything else is going to start working harder. Everything else may start being out of balance, or there may be a breakdown in an area. Thus, the behavior of aggression. Thus, the behavior of lack of respect for others and other people's rights and boundaries and things like that, okay? And so that's just to give you a mini little education on how that works. But so in the African American culture, instead of respecting ourselves and others and other people's rights, whether it's within our own family or outside of ourselves, there's this projection. And it's clumped under all in the name of love and concern, but it's invalidating, and it's also capping, if that's the word, the growth that we're supposed to experience as adults. And then people look up and they wonder why, either they can't operate in life properly, right, or in a healthy way, because some people are bullying their way through life. And so I'm speaking of aggression. I'm talking about that unhealthiness that comes from the things that were inherited in the culture and almost praised and worshiped, kind of like blind respect, this blind honor and respect, from others. And it kind of sends the message that we're not important. And then we grow up tolerating things that we shouldn't and not able to stand in our truth and our power because we came up with this blind, respect your elders, basically jump through hoops for them and, all of this stuff, which in and of itself is not bad, but at what cost, especially when you were invalidated, but it was demanded that you respect, and which you can't demand respect. What you did was provoked fear. That's not respect. I don't even think we know what the word respect really means. And so it's invalidating. So it's creating all this stuff within our chakras, within our memory bank, our subconscious memory bank, the brain, and it's sending the message, I'm not important. It's sending the message, I better do what I'm told. I better follow the rules. I better, or they're going to beat me up. I better, or they're going to, ostracize me. I better, or they're going to, team up on me, or whatever, the case may be. So it's sending the message, I don't matter. My job is to please everyone else. My job is to agree with things even if it's not sitting right with me. And that's not healthy, okay? And so you see it in other cultures. I was referring to the African American culture because I'm African American, so I feel like I can talk about that, and that has been my experience, is what I see. Even in the name of love, light, and truth, I see people violating others. Anytime you're violating, you're not operating from higher consciousness or love, because people have a right to have their own identity and their own personality, their own beliefs, their own way. Okay, and they are valuable and deserve respect equally so. There's no, oh, well, no. All that is dysfunctional. Should parents be revered, honored and the elders? Absolutely, in a healthy sense, because they also should revere what? And honor what? Their offspring. It's a cycle. It is a cycle. So it's not one-sided. But culturally speaking, you have adults that's taking all sorts of abuse from family or adult family members or adult parents, all in the name of, this is the tradition, but it's an unhealthy, dysfunctional tradition. I'm not implying that in turn you deal with abuse. I'm implying that we have a right to change, establish healthy boundaries, not agree with that, and to be our authentic self. And if by being our authentic self creates rift within our culture or family dynamic, we also have a right to disconnect, in a sense of where disconnect is healthy and right, in a sense of love and balance, not in a negative connotation, but in a sense of saying, I too don't have a right to enforce my way on people, but I do have a right to protect my energy. I do have a right to protect who I am. I do have a right to stand up for who I am, whether you like it or not, whether you agree with me or not. Okay? And so we develop these people-pleasing, codependent, self-depreciating attitudes, and then it's challenging to be powerful and grounded and centered in life in a healthy sense, because you have people that are in extremes. They're out there, but they're aggressive, and not aggressive in the good sense, because you need some strength, you need some gumption to be able to succeed in life. And I'm not referring to that. I'm talking about that unhealthy toxicity where we're squashing people because we need to feel elevated. We're crossing lines and boundaries because we feel like we have a right to tell folks how to live their life. You know what I'm saying? And we take that as love, as this is how it's going to get my life together, and on track. But here's the question we need to ask. Has any of that ever really worked in the long haul? Or are you just driving yourself bonkers, okay? Hating yourself, rejecting yourself, trying to perform up to someone else's standards of what life ought to be and what you ought to be, right? Cracking the whip. Oh, if I beat myself up enough, I'll finally get it together. If I talk crazy to myself enough, I'll finally get together. If I be self-depreciating, this is me holding myself accountable. Who said that? Whose view is that? Who told you that? We need to be able to be loving and kind and gracious and tender to ourselves. Yes, structure. Yes, hold ourselves accountable in a loving way that resonates, that's in alignment, because someone else's truth may not be yours. You may not be trying to climb the corporate ladder. That may be someone else's dream. You may already feel bad enough about yourself. See, the thing that I'm saying is some people feel like, oh, I got to get on your helmet. But oftentimes love and reinforcement and encouragement is the answer. Support that gives you the strength and the feel-good energy and vibration to make the changes from a place of love, from a place of acceptance, from a place of realizing and honoring yourself and your own pace. Someone else's pace may not be your pace, because Joe Blow or Sister so-and-so, they handle it. They did it in 2 days, and they went over here and they went, and they bragging all more than a little bit. Okay. But just because they did that, and there's always more to that story. Let me just tell you that as a sidebar, than meets the eye. But just because they did that doesn't mean that is what you suppose, quotation marks, supposed to be doing. And our culture, the African American culture, what I'm finding is no matter how educated and polished and accomplished some of them are, they still don't understand that. You see stuff on TV based on the whole theory of scared straight and basically cussing folks out to try to make them get it together. So what I'm saying here, I understand that theory of tough love, but we need to be more open, or if it's resonating with us, it would bold us and serve us well to question what we think works because someone else said it does. We need to not be afraid to challenge that and say, is this really productive? Most of us have been through enough degradation and depreciation and condescension for a lifetime. The last thing we need is someone else who don't even can't figure out their own selves wanting to tell you what you ain't supposed to, the last thing we need is that, okay? And since we can't control others and need to honor where other people are, then we go within and make those healthy adjustments and changes for ourselves. Back to the title, changing plans, but even deeper, changing. And having the right to say, I know that's what's been accepted and tolerated and agreed upon for generation to generation, but it don't sit well with me. I don't have a problem with loving and respecting, but I also require it. And if it's not being reciprocated, I'm going to lovingly make the adjustment as is necessary, as what resonates with me in the name of love. But see, guess what? Loving myself first. Because that's my service, not only to myself, but ultimately in a long haul, it's going to be my service to the greater good of the high collective consciousness and to humanity. Starting with honoring me and loving me, and then pouring that back into the world in the way in which I'm destined to serve. Not because someone else told me. I'm not implying that we shouldn't get advice from people. I'm talking about this overly bossy, disrespectful, aggressive, negative, condescending, competing, comparing, all of this stuff that sometimes accompanies our particular culture. Okay. So we end up triggering one another because some of us are not on the healing path, and calling it love, calling it concern, blind to our subconscious, blind to what's hiding there and what's provoking us to act and respond to people in a certain way, or our family, or whomever in a certain way. Like sometimes it's deeper than the surface, like I said. Sometimes it's hidden in the subconscious and we rationalize it. Okay, because it takes coming to an enlightenment. I put a post on Facebook, I want to say it was yesterday or day before yesterday, and I said it takes a healthy mind to even recognize that the mind is not operating healthy. One of the most challenging things is to get someone who feel like ain't nothing wrong with them to see where maybe there's something going on in their brain. Maybe there's something going on in their chakra system. Maybe there's some hidden secret subconscious things there, right? So it's an oxymoron, but that's the truth. I mean, you hear behavioralists, and psychologists and therapists say things like, 9 times out of 10, a narcissist doesn't always have a diagnosis, because usually a true narcissist, they're not going to go and let nobody look at them and give them and evaluate nothing, because to them it's everybody else. To them, they don't say it. Sometimes they appear like they've done some healing work or whatever that they haven't really done. Their healing work has just only been avoiding, but not really dealing with their own issues. Right? Because the moment they're triggered, the moment something happens, the moment they, it's a telltale. Like, okay, yeah. They see themselves as God. They see themselves as superior. I hate to say it, So that's the whole point of an unhealthy mind, is not going to even recognize that it's them. They're not going to even be able to see their role in the matter, is what I'm trying to say. They can't even see it. To them, it's no, y'all. Right? All the time. I mean, literally all the time. So I digress again. Back to my whole point. That's what I feel like is something that maybe I've always known, I've always felt, kind of why, and being an empath, I'm an empath. So I was looking and listening to something today, and people really minimize and try to generalize an empath, but really empaths absorb. They're like sponges. Okay? They absorb energy. They absorb what's going on with folks. And so it explains, a lot to me in terms of why I've always thought and felt a certain way around my own kind, for the most part. And I'm learning and seeing like, oh, okay, I get it. I get it now. I get it. That scarcity mindset, which basically, gives you that hustle mentality, by any means necessary, your needs above the other person's, and exploiting the needy population for your own gain, whatever way you want to look at that. But as a result of the chakra system all jacked up, the things that was inherited, and not only that, the brain, the literal brain, subconscious, the things that are imprinted there, trauma, the trauma that people deny exists. You know what I'm saying? Like, just it's there. Okay, everything's energy. And so my heart's desire and intent, with all of that said, I'm not sharing all this just to be saying some information. My whole heart's desire and intention is to get the information out there, provoke some thinkers to start thinking, to provoke some people out there to start doing their own research, and to bring hope and positivity that, just like the picture on that card said on this recording, changing plans We have a right to change. When it doesn't feel right, when the energy, and guess what? We don't need someone to give us the green light to do that. We don't need the validation for someone to come and say, oh, okay, you're right. Yeah, the energy ain't right. Well, chances are they're not going to know it. Chances are they're going to look at you like you're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Okay? It's about what resonates with you, because at the end of the day, we're adults. At the end of the day, we're responsible for our own lives. At the end of the day, okay, everyone's going home to their perspective, wherever and whatever, honey. I say this all the time jokingly. Folks is going home eating chicken and ice cream. They ain't about to lose no sleep behind you. So, at the end of the day, it needs to sit well with you. And I understand we all have room for growth and change. And so I'm not speaking of when it's something we need to relook at and all of that. But guess what? You have the right to determine that too. That's my whole point. You have a right. And this is your journey. Okay? It's yours. And we have a right to be happy. We have a right to feel good. We have a right to want relationships that are honoring and mutually beneficial. We have a right to desire, connections and relationships that are just as fulfilling to us as we are to them. We have a right. You have a right to honor that, but it's up to us to honor it, because our vibration needs to go in a certain place so we can start attracting it. Not only that, we have to start putting ourselves out there, like Miss Luna Nate mentioned, stretching the borders, and that's something I'm realizing a whole lot. It's like, ooh, you got to stretch the borders, because if all you are around is negativity, no matter how high you get your vibrations up, you're not, you ain't getting ready to, what's there is there, basically. What's there is there. Okay. And so, but be of hope and encouragement, because it all starts with us, right? And it's one day at a time, one step at a time. And so my desire is just to keep putting information out there, keep sharing my experience, and whomever it resonates with, it resonates with. My desire is that it blesses you, that it elevates you, that it encourages you, that it provokes you to think in a good way, in a positive way, that it supports your journey for your highest good and your higher self, for the greater good, for your ease and comfort and soul purpose. And, that's my intent and desire. Okay. And so before I go, of course, I'll go ahead and add another culture so it doesn't feel like I'm just targeting African American cultures. I'll go ahead and use, I want to say, I don't know if it's Japanese, Chinese, or Korean. I know that one of them, they have a culture, traditions, they're very strict and disciplinary. And in America, we make a joke of why they're usually so smart at, I want to say it's math or just certain things, because of how, they're, really heavy, strong disciplinaries, and very restrictive and very demanding and controlling, and, all of that, right? And so some would say, well, by them being that way, look at what it produces. But see, again, we're going back to, you have to ask those individual children that grow up how they really feel about it. And then you have to ask yourself, what do you deem important in your life? How do you equate prosperity and success? Is that person secretly miserable, but they are smart because their parents demanded this and restricted this and that, but they hate life. They hate themselves. They hate life. They're not happy. They got to take about 1,200 pills at night to get to sleep, or drank, or, what I'm saying, whatever it is, whatever forms of addictions or whatever, numbing out. And this is not judgment. So please understand, when I talk this way, this is not me judging. This is observation and me expressing what happens, not a judgment call on them. We all deal with our things differently, right? Our pain, our suffering. So the point of what I'm saying is we have to evaluate for ourselves what we deem equals success and prosperity and happiness. Because just because we look on the surface and say, well, gosh, yeah, they are brilliant at math, or they are, brilliant at this, and they did do that. But get behind the scene with some of their lives, or get talking to some of them, without filter, that's willing to open up. And if you were a fly on the wall when there's no one around, you see where I'm going? Are they really happy and fulfilled? Or are they miserable? Because they took on the projections of the culture and the traditions, because if you challenged it, it comes with all of these penalties, right? But what I'm saying is, in the United States of America, no matter what your culture is and nationality is, you have a right to change. You have a right to change your view, to change your mind, to change your plans, to change what you believe. It's up to you. You have a right to feel good. You have a right to feel good about you. You have a right to go for something that sits right with you, that makes you happy. You have a right to not get in the hustle and bustle the way everybody else call working it hard or success, or, grind and all those different things that we hear. You have a right to decide, I don't want that. Because I see people who work themselves in early graves. I see people who do that to the demise of their health. I see people who do that and their home lives are wrecked. I see people do that and they're secretly not happy. They may look happy. They may got shiny, sparkly things, but they're not happy. I mean, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with things. So please don't go to those extremes. It's what's important to you and you finding your own balance. If you want the shiny things, okay, hey, however it resonates with you. If you want the shiny things, but you want a fulfilling, happy life and friendships and relationships and peace and time and all that, then you have to evaluate it and say, okay, I'm going to have to find my place, my medium, because I said to someone the other day, what good is it all if you're unhappy? What good is it all if you can't enjoy it? You're grumpy, you can't, you know what I'm saying? You're tired, you all the time, what good is it to be sitting on pretty or whatever you want to call it, but are you actually enjoying it? Energy, it's all energy, and we've taken on this belief sometimes it's not meant to be enjoyed. Well, who said that? And why do you have to agree with that? You see where I'm going with my train of thought here? Asking ourselves when we take our last breath, what is it that we would really be thinking? Would it be, man, I wish I got me 4 of them dang on Nissan Rogues, or whatever. Is it gonna be that for real? Probably not. Think about what it is we would really wish we would have had experience, and 9 chances out of 10 is going to be something to do with just living, enjoying yourself, enjoying life, enjoying others that enjoys you, right? So of course having things in a balanced way and with intent and purpose, and not sacrificing the one for the other. And of course, there are sacrifices we pay in time, energy, but it's up to us to find that medium, and not automatically, the whole point of this recording, not just hold on to traditions and beliefs and cultural norms that's been handed to us because they said so. And because that's how they feel, or because that's how it's always been. It's about what sits right with you. That's the whole point, beautiful souls. Not judging them, but also not judging yourself. Accepting them for who they are, but more importantly, accepting yourself. Putting up healthy boundaries and not feeling bad about it. right? Okay, well, I hope that this confirms some things for some of you. I hope that it's encouraging and motivating and just provokes you to go on your own path and journey and to look into some of your own thoughts and ways and attitudes and belief systems. You have a right to change your plans, to change your mind, to change your actions, to change your beliefs. Namaste.